You got the keys. You ready to go? Let's drive. Oh, wait. Do we have insurance? How do I buy insurance? If you're new to driving or if you just don't understand insurance, this video is going to help you. I'm an insurance agent licensed in 38 plus states. I think it's like, what, 40, 45 states? I don't know. If you're new to insurance or if you're curious on the way that the coverages work, obviously I sell quite a bit. You can see my my headset line in my hair there. I had to show you guys. So I just want to go over like the different types of coverages. If you've got somebody new to insurance, they should definitely look at this. Now keep in mind, this is generalization. I can't give you exact numbers because I don't know what state you're in. So if you're in Michigan, there's a lot more stuff versus the person that's in New York versus the person that's in Florida. But I'll give you some of the basis and I'll go over some of the states that are very popular. So I'll probably go through Florida because they're a huge state for insurance, maybe California, some things like that. When you're looking at insurance, I'll start off with auto insurance. The first thing that you want to do is they're going to ask you, what's your bodily injury? Like, what kind of coverages are you looking for? Here's how you determine what coverages you need. You want to look at your income, the money coming in, and you want to look at your assets. Your vehicle, do you own a house? The way you want insurance to look is you want insurance to look better than you. If your income level is here, you want your coverages to be just here. That way, if something happens, because you can't control it, you get in an accident, it might be your fault, you know, you dropped a pen, you went to go grab it, or you looked away and you hit somebody, they're going to sue you if you don't have enough coverages. And if they take a look at you, when they go to court, they say, okay, well, this guy's making this much, but his insurance has this much. So forget this guy. We're just going to go after the insurance company. And that's really the main design of insurance. That's basically the way you want to have it set up. So your first set of coverage is called bodily injury, or BI limits, they call them. So what type of BI limits? If you're a brand new young driver, a lot of people here, they'll say, I want the state minimums. So typically, the lowest one that I know of is Florida, where they offer, it's called 1020. That means if you injure somebody in a car accident, it will pay $10,000 per person in that car, up to a total of $20,000. So if you hit a car, there's 3 people in it, and let's just say each of them have $5,000 worth of medical claims, you're covered because you have 5, 10, 15. So you haven't maxed it out and you haven't gone above 10 per person. So let's just say you do the same scenario and one guy gets hurt and it costs $15,000 medical and the other 2 are only $5,000 medical. Okay? So it's only going to pay $10,000 for the first person, so they might take you to court for the other $5,000 of the medical, or they might go after your insurance depending on what coverages you have. So in reality, they're only covering 10, 5, and 5. So it's 20. It still covers the other 2 because it doesn't max out the $20,000 here. You did max out the $10,000 limit. So be very careful. State minimums are very, very scary as far as coverages go. Obviously, if your finances aren't there, if you can't afford it and you just have to drive, you got to get to work, then that's the place to start. Typically, what most people will do if you have a lower income, just about every state I know offers 25 and 50. It doesn't cost much more to up it to the 25, 50. And it's not a lot of coverage, but it's at least enough where if you don't have a large income or you don't have a lot of assets, that it's a good starting place. Okay, so that's your bodily injury limits. The next thing is called PD. That stands for property damage. Anything that you damage, if you run into a house, if you run into another car, that's covering the vehicle. So most state minimums, they'll let you do $5,000. That's just to pay repairs, not for you, for anyone you hit. That's really, really low because most cars nowadays, the paint jobs are $5,000 on most cars. The way I always think about it is pretend you hit not necessarily a Mercedes or a Ferrari, but pretend you hit a decent BMW. Most BMWs I would expect to be about $45,000 to $50,000, even if they're used. So recommendation, do at least $50,000. The next level above that would be $100,000. But you can do lower than that. Keep in mind, property damage is the cheapest thing to buy in insurance. So upping that coverage will cost you dollars. So don't try to save a couple dollars, because it could cost you a lot more in the end. Okay? So as far as that, you got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. You can go as high as you want. After that, I think they go into 50,000 and then 100,000, $100,000 for coverage, and then some companies do 200 and 250 and 500,000. That's a little extreme. I mean, if you're a millionaire, then yeah, you want to do 250,000 on property damage. You'll probably never ever cause that much. I mean, you literally have to total a Ferrari to get 250,000, or you have to go down and sideswipe 10 cars and then run into a house, and then you would max it out. So recommendation, most common thing you're going to see, if you do stick with the basic coverage and you go a little bit above, so you do the 25 and 50, most people will offer 25,000 for property damage. Not bad. It's a good place to start. Definitely most common. Personally, I would bump it up to 50,000. Just to be safe, in case you do hit a little bit nicer car. It'll probably cost you maybe $5 every 6 months. So just a little tip there. In insurance, very inexpensive to do. So that's property damage. Some states, that's all you have to have. Bodily injury, property damage. The next coverage is called Uninsured Motorist, or UMBI and UMPD. Same exact thing that we just talked about. Uninsured motorist bodily injury and uninsured motorist property damage. Okay, now this is protection for you. And the only time this ever comes into play is if the person that hit you does not have insurance. So they're driving illegally, or they just bought the car, they're driving home, they run into you, and they don't have insurance. If you don't have this coverage, you're not covered. The only scenario where you would be covered is if you do full coverage on the vehicle, which I'll explain in a little bit. So uninsured bodily injury, same exact coverages, 25, 50, 50 and 100,000, so 50,000 a person, 100,000 an accident, 100,000, 300,000, which is the most common for homeowners. So if you're a homeowner, keep that in the back of your mind. And then what I personally do is 250,000 a person, 500,000 an accident. And some companies will let you go a little bit above that. So those are the ranges that you typically get in your bodily injury. It falls in the same category as uninsured motorist. If you're driving, an old car, you may not want the uninsured property damage. Some states combine them, so it comes as a package and you can't remove it. But other states, they'll let you buy the uninsured bodily injury, but not the property damage. Hope I'm not losing you. So I'll take a little breath and just recap. Bodily injury, uninsured bodily injury. Bodily injury covers the other person. Uninsured bodily injury covers you in the event that the person has no insurance. Best way to think of it, hit and run. Someone hits you, takes off. If you're hurt, you've got some medical coverage. Or if the car's damaged, you've got whatever coverage you selected, whether it's 5,000 or 10,000. And you can do them separately. So you can have your bodily injury at 100, 300, and you can have your uninsured bodily injury at 50 and 100. So whatever you want. Uninsured in most states is fairly inexpensive. Just keep in mind, some states like Florida, it's really expensive. Gotta be careful. Some states are really expensive, some states are inexpensive. I've seen uninsured motorists cost $15 for 6 months before. Check with your insurance agent if you're doing that coverage. Find out what the cost of just that coverage alone is. And if it's too much, then kind of figure a different way. What I personally do, I carry it, but you also can get your own medical insurance outside of the car insurance. The only thing you have to be very, very careful is not all insurance companies, your medical, like through work, not all of them cover auto accidents. If you're going to do it, make sure you call them and check to make sure that they cover a car accident. Okay? There's also something called MedPay. Okay, that stands for medical payments. This is in any event. Doesn't matter if they don't have insurance, doesn't matter if they do have insurance. Typically, let's say you cause a car accident. No matter what happens, you're not covered medically. Because if you're the one at fault, your insurance is going to pay it, but they're not going to pay for you because you caused an accident. You can add medical payments. If you don't have your own medical insurance, MedPay is definitely a good thing to do. If you do have your own medical insurance, then as long as they cover the accident, then it's not necessarily something I would recommend. So MedPay, you usually don't have a lot of options. You can usually do 5,000, which is the most common. You can do 10,000, and some states go a little crazy, let you do up to 100,000. If you're in Michigan, for example, theirs is unlimited. The state requires you at the time that I'm doing this, the state requires you to have a medical coverage, either through your own medical, and you can coordinate the two so that you're not paying for both of them, or you can, or the state forces you to have medical coverage. So I think it's up to $1 million, but it's really unlimited as far as medical goes. Michigan people, if you're watching this, definitely talk to your agent, because there's a lot of little things with Michigan as far as that goes, and I know the insurance world is a lot more expensive, a lot tougher there, and that's because of the medical. Florida, they have something called personal injury protection. I think New York does it. New Jersey, I think, does it. There's about 4 or 5 states that does it, but mainly Florida. Personal injury protection in Florida is $10,000. So you automatically get $10,000 medical straight out. Okay? That's part of the policy. If you have insurance, you have personal injury protection. It's required. The thing is, it doesn't pay the full $10,000. So here's where you got to be very careful. So PIP and MedPay, it's personal injury protection. Those are very similar, where PIP in certain states you have to find out what exactly it covers. So when you're in Florida, they say it's $10,000, but in reality it only pays 80% of your medical up to $10,000. So PIP typically comes packaged with you've got work loss, so if you can't work, it'll pay a little bit of your paycheck up to the level you set, which is $10,000 in Florida. And then it'll pay like death benefits if someone dies in the accident, little things that it adds in there, and then it's up to the limit that's set. Some states will let you go higher, but most states it just stays right on a low number, because they expect you to get your own insurance as far as like medical and things like that. These are more backups in case, so you don't have to dig into your own. Just a little secret for Florida people, you can raise the personal injury protection. A lot of people don't know that. I believe they do $25,000 or even $50,000, but in most insurance companies, you can't start off with the higher limit. So you have to purchase the one as it is with $10,000 MedPay or PIP, and then you can bump it up. You have to do it in writing with most companies. Okay, so MedPay. You can do $5,000, $10,000. Some companies do $15,000, even $100,000. That pays for your medical and anyone else in your car. If you get in an accident and there's 3 friends in your car, it's not $5,000 total if you chose that number. It's $5,000 per person. Okay. Now all of these things, all of these guidelines, I'm giving you some flat numbers. Keep in mind each state you want to check with your company to find out for certain if what I'm saying is the normal in that state, because by the time I'm doing this, the laws change constantly, so coverages can change, but these are your basics. So bodily injury, uninsured bodily injury, property damage, uninsured property damage, medical payments. Okay, that's all the liability. They call it liable. So anything you're liable for if you cause an accident. The next coverage is going to be full coverage. So full coverage is comprised of 2 things. You've got comprehensive, if I can spell today, and collision. Comprehensive, best way to think about that, while your car's sitting there, that's comprehensive. So if hail damage in the car gets damaged from hail, if the windshield cracks, that's comprehensive. Oddly enough, in the situation where you hit an animal, that falls under comprehensive, so I know you're moving, and that would be, but in most situations, vandalism, theft, things like that. Comprehensive is going to come with a deductible. Some companies offer a 0 deductible, so you don't have to pay anything, but that's going to cost you more money in the insurance. Most commonly, people will do a $100 or $250 deductible. That would mean if there's someone vandalizes your car or hail damages, your car's completely covered. Let's just say your car is a $10,000 car. It's covered minus your deductible. So the insurance company will pay up to $10,000 to fix it, minus your $250 deductible if that's the deductible you chose. That's comprehensive. Collision is no matter what. You cause the accident, they cause the accident, it doesn't matter. Your car's covered. Typically, a lot of people do a higher deductible on that because that's the most expensive piece of covering the car. So most common deductible that I see is $500. Some people that want to save extra funds, they'll do $1,000 deductible. Just make sure, keep in mind, you have to have $1,000 available, that if you get in an accident, you have to come out of pocket and pay that $1,000. Okay, that's your portion of the accident. So if your car is a $10,000 car, it's totaled, they're going to give you $9,000 back. Or if it's getting repaired, let's just say they're covering up to $7,000, you're only getting covered for $6,000 because you have $1,000 deductible. In the event that somebody hits you and they have insurance, their insurance is typically going to pay your deductible. Okay, so that's where it kind of comes into play. So for me personally, I've never caused an accident, so I'm not worried about having a large deductible. I still stick with the basics. I do a $500 deductible on my vehicle. As far as the vehicles themselves, when don't you want to have full coverage? Here's my personal opinion on it. You can do it any way you want, but here's what I personally do. If the cost of full coverage, so comprehensive and collision, and keep in mind you can't have collision without comprehensive. I don't think any state offers it that way. If I'm wrong, leave me a comment and let me know if there's a state. I'm kind of curious. I'm 95%. I'm licensed in, I think, 42 states. So out of all the states that I'm licensed in, I don't offer collision without comprehensive. It's just not an option. My computer kicks back and says, no, you can't do it. The time that you don't want to have the collision on there or the comprehensive is cheap, by the way. It's not that expensive, so sometimes it's cheap to have comprehensive. I know in some insurance companies, just a little, I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's supposed to be that way, but in Florida, sometimes if you add comprehensive on it, it's cheaper than if you didn't do it. So just a little tip for you Florida people. The time I personally don't cover the comp and collision is when I look at the value of my car. So let's just say I have a 98 or a 2008, doesn't really matter. We'll say Pontiac Vibe, okay? And the car is worth $3,500. It's debatable whether you want to take that risk. It's gambling. I mean, you're taking a risk saying, I'm not going to cause an accident. To me personally, if the cost of the difference between having it and not having the full coverage, so comp and collision, is in a 3-year period is more than what I'm comfortable with. So if it's the value of the car, if it's going to cost me over a 3-year period, I'll say probably $2,000 to $3,000, I won't cover it. Because the odds of me having an accident in a 3-year period where it's my fault are very low. For me, it's almost none, because I've never had an accident where it was my fault. Or at least if I did, my insurance company wasn't claiming it. You know, I've had the initial slip on ice, hit a curb, go to the mechanic shop, it's $500. What's the point? Why file it on my insurance? Because it's a ding under me. It says I had an at-fault accident. So comprehensive collision. If you guys have questions, if you're curious, I can give you basic advice. I don't want to give you solid stuff because legally I don't think I'm allowed. I don't think legally I want the responsibility if something does happen. So that's my disclosure in here. Don't hold me to these numbers. I'm just giving you some ideas. Here's my thought process. And when you look at it, just remember when you talk to an insurance agent, it's called comprehensive, not comprehension. Comprehensive. That's a little funny thing. A lot of people think it's comprehensive, which is fine. We don't care. It's just kind of funny. The next coverage, you've got bodily injury, property damage, med pay, uninsured motorist, comp collision, towing and road service. So do you want towing and road service? If you get a flat tire, do you want it to be covered? To be honest with you, buy AAA. AAA is by far the best value for the price. Last time I checked, they were $45 a year. And they cover, I think, 5 uses up to 15 miles, which is about, actually a hair more than what most insurances cover. If you don't use it very often, then it's fine. It's going to cost you $6, $7 a year every 6 months for car insurance, in the car insurance. So don't worry about it as far as where am I getting the best deal. To cut $7 out, it might be worth your time not even to bother with AAA. I used to have AAA membership. I just haven't renewed it just because I don't use it. I've already got it in my auto. I'm paying $7 every 6 months for it. So it's not going to kill me just to leave it as it is. Rental car. Rental car is, in my opinion, expensive. It's not if you need it. I mean, it's a good thing to have. But typically you're going to pay an extra $5 to $8 in your insurance bill. So everything adds up. I mean, you've got $8 here, $100 here, $50 here. I mean, when you dig into it, if you're going to shop insurance, here's my recommendation. Sit down, figure out what you can afford. I can afford $120 a month. Try to find a good fit. Look at your assets, look at your income, see where you're at. If you're a student, you probably don't have a lot of assets, you probably don't have a lot of income. If you're, own a house, if you have really good income, a lot of assets, good retirement, all of that, you want to do higher coverages. So I'm going to give you a couple averages. Here's what I personally would do. I would check if you need the little ones, do 25 per person, 50,000 per accident for your bodily injury, and then your property damage, do 50,000. Okay, that's a good starting point. If that is affordable, do it. If you don't have medical, do the same thing for uninsured motorists. 25 a person, 50 per accident, and then look at the value of your car. If your car is only worth $10,000, there's no point in covering the uninsured property damage at $50,000. You just want $10,000 in case you have that happen. Those are the coverages to start with, ignoring what the basics are. The next level, a lot of people do, well, I'd say about a fifth of the people that I talk to is $50,000 a person, $100,000 an accident, and then $50,000 for property damage. And in a side note, maybe check the possibility of $100,000 for property damage. Okay, if it's only $5 more, do it. Because if you hit a BMW that's $55,000 and you have to come out of pocket $5,000, you're not going to be a happy camper. Do the same thing for uninsured motorists, $50,000 a person, $100,000 an accident, property damage, whatever the value of your car is or whatever you're comfortable having covered. Okay, comp and collision, that's only the car. It has nothing to do with you. If you want to learn more, please like the video if you like it. Leave comments. Let me know if there's something I missed, something I covered that didn't sound right. If you have general questions, if you're looking for a specific video, let me know. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Make sure when you subscribe that you click the follow notifications, turn the notifications on. That way when I upload the new one, you can do that, but expect new videos on the categories I just covered. And every time you subscribe, the Lions win another game. And I'm sorry if you don't like the Lions, but they're awesome. Not really, but they're my team.